Late one night, Keanu Reeves sat quietly in his spacious yet modest Los Angeles home. The glow of a reading lamp cast long shadows on the wooden floor. He had just finished watching a documentary about homelessness in America and was visibly shaken. The images of people being ignored, judged, and mistreated lingered in his mind. He whispered to himself, "They treat them like ghosts, like they don't even exist." That night, a thought began to grow. What if he could experience that world, even just for a day? What if he walked among them, not as a movie star, but as one of them? Early the next morning, Keanu stood in front of his bathroom mirror, his familiar reflection gradually disappearing. He dressed in old, stained clothes he'd picked up from a thrift store. His usually neat hair was matted, and he smudged dirt on his face. By the time he stepped outside, even his closest friend wouldn't have recognized him. He clutched a worn-out backpack with nothing but a water bottle and a notepad. Today he would walk the city, not as Keanu Reeves, but as a nameless, homeless man. The sun rose over downtown LA, casting a golden hue on the sidewalks where the city's unseen population stirred. Keanu walked down a bustling street, weaving between businessmen in suits, tourists snapping selfies, and baristas rushing with coffee cups. He stood outside a cafe holding a small cardboard sign. "Hungry. Just need a meal. God bless." Passers-by barely glanced his way. Some turned their heads. Others crossed the street entirely. A young woman in business attire walked past him and muttered, "Get a job," without even slowing down. A man in a luxury car looked straight at Keanu, then rolled up his window. Children walking with their parents were pulled aside, as if he were a threat. Keanu quietly noted each interaction, his heart growing heavier with every rejection. No one saw him. No one asked if he was okay. He was invisible. He entered a small local diner and approached the counter, politely asking, "Could I just have a glass of water, please?" The waitress glanced at his appearance, then looked away. "Restrooms for customers only," she said coldly. He smiled gently, "Just water, it's really hot out." She turned and walked into the kitchen without another word. A couple sitting nearby shook their heads, whispering to each other. Hours passed. Keanu sat on a park bench, still hungry, still invisible. Then, a teenage boy in a hoodie approached. He didn't speak, just handed Keanu a granola bar and a bottle of juice, then walked away without expecting thanks. Keanu watched him disappear into the crowd. His first act of kindness that day had come not from a wealthy executive or an adult, but a quiet kid. As darkness fell, Keanu found a quiet alley near a closed bookstore. He sat on a flattened cardboard box, his back against the brick wall. The noises of the city, sirens, honking cars, laughter from bars, faded into a strange, lonely silence. He took out his notepad and scribbled, "They don't see pain. They see a problem. They don't see me. They see inconvenience." The next morning, Keanu returned to the same cafe. This time, he sat at the edge of the sidewalk, silently watching. A young woman exited the cafe, holding a large coffee. She looked down at him, hesitated, and then walked away. Moments later, she returned, crouched beside him, and said, "Do you need anything?" Keanu looked into her eyes, compassionate, genuine. He only nodded. She handed him a bagel and a bottle of water. That evening, Keanu returned home and removed his disguise. As he looked into the mirror, he hardly recognized himself, not just his appearance, but the emotional weight in his eyes. What he had experienced in 24 hours had left an imprint no camera could capture. A few days later, Keanu appeared on a major talk show. The host, shocked, introduced a segment with hidden camera footage. The audience gasped as they saw him being ignored, mistreated, and dismissed. Keanu explained, "I didn't do this for attention. I did this because I had to know. I had to feel what they feel every single day." Within hours of the talk show airing, clips of Keanu's undercover experience spread like wildfire across social media. Hashtags like #KeanuSeesUs and #WalkInTheirShoes trended globally. People were shocked, ashamed, inspired. In offices, in classrooms, on the streets, people began sharing their own stories of being ignored, overlooked, or judged by appearance. Keanu's silent experiment had sparked a loud conversation. News outlets picked up the story. Interviews flooded in. Keanu, though overwhelmed, remained calm and focused in every one. "This isn't about me," he told a reporter. "It's about how we treat the people we think are beneath us. That has to change." He announced plans to create an outreach program, using his own money to build centers that offer meals, shelter, mental health support, and job training. Keanu returned, this time in his true appearance, to the cafe where he'd been refused even a glass of water. The same waitress was working. She didn't recognize him at first, smiling politely. Then her face changed. "You were that man," she whispered. Keanu didn't raise his voice or shame her. He simply said, "Every person deserves dignity. I hope you treat the next one better than you treated me." Keanu's team tracked down the teenage boy who had given him a granola bar in the park. His name was Malik. They invited him to Keanu's home, where Malik nervously arrived with his mother. "You're the reason I didn't give up that day," Keanu said warmly. He gave Malik a scholarship, a laptop, and offered to mentor him personally. Malik broke into tears. His mother hugged Keanu tightly, whispering, "You've changed our lives." Keanu returned one night to the same alley he'd slept in. This time, he didn't come alone. He brought blankets, food, and a few volunteers. They greeted the homeless residents, offering conversation, care, and respect. He sat on the same cardboard, speaking with a veteran named Rick. "I used to be somebody," Rick said. Keanu replied, "You still are. The world just forgot. Let's remind them." Inspired by Keanu's journey, Los Angeles City officials launched a new campaign focused on empathy training for service workers, police, and public staff. Schools began teaching empathy units. Businesses posted signs, "Everyone welcome. No judgment here." Keanu watched all this quietly from afar. His eyes lit up, not with pride, but with hope. At a charity gala a month later, Keanu took a stage. In front of a massive audience, he began with a story, not of movies, but of silence. When you're ignored for hours, when people avoid eye contact, when the world rushes past you, that silence becomes a scream in your heart. The room was still. Eyes teared up. He ended with one sentence: "Kindness costs nothing. But not giving it? That costs us everything." A photographer who had once snapped photos of Keanu as a Hollywood recluse now followed him on his outreach rounds. The photos they captured told a new story: Keanu kneeling beside a child, shaking hands with a shelter resident, smiling through tears with an elderly woman. These images were turned into a photo exhibition titled, "Seen: Faces of Forgotten Angels Months Later." Keanu walked downtown once again, not as a disguise, but as himself. Yet this time, strangers approached him, not for autographs, but to say thank you. A barista offered him coffee on the house. A construction worker clapped his shoulder. But most powerful of all was an older man who said, "I used to walk past them. Now I see them. Because of you." The story of Keanu's day as a homeless man became a book, a documentary, and most importantly, a movement. Not about fame, not about guilt, but about seeing people, respecting them, listening. In the final shot of the documentary, Keanu stands silently beside a mural painted on a downtown wall, a lifelike portrait of his disguised self with one sentence painted underneath: "Everyone you ignore is a story you haven't read yet." He could have stayed in his world of comfort, but instead, Keanu chose to walk in pain to awaken empathy in others. And with nothing but humility and truth, he changed the way people see the world.